Hi, I'm Jake, and today is the second video in my series of all the gear that I bring on a weekend backpacking trip. And so today I'm going to cover my shelter and sleep system. And I need to start off by saying that this whole setup is really only good for 3-season camping. So it's good for spring, summer, and fall time, but wintertime camping just requires its own set of gear that I'm not going to go over at this time. All right, so we'll get started with the tent. And this is the Salida 1. It's a tent made by Kelty, and it's a one-person tent. And honestly, this is probably one of my favorite solo tents that I've ever used. It's really easy to set up. It's got 2 different poles that collapse down, so you just have to expand them and connect them all together. And then they connect diagonally across the tent. And then the tent has these little snap locks, so you easily just clip them all into place, and your tent's popped up in just a matter of minutes. So it's really easy to set the tent up. And once it is set up, it is freestanding, but I do recommend putting in your stakes because you never know when it may be windy and you don't want a gust of wind to blow your tent away. And also putting up the ground stakes just maximizes the amount of room that you have on the inside of the tent. And then for this tent, it did not come with a ground pad, but I have a ground pad that I cut to the size of this tent. It's made out of Tyvek, which it works for me. It's really lightweight, really strong, like it doesn't tear or rip on anything. So that works, but a tarp just as well works. It's really whatever you have available. And then I definitely recommend having a ground pad because if you're gonna have to set up on wet or muddy ground, then the ground pad's just gonna add a layer of protection between the ground and the bottom of your tent, because if you're setting your tent up on wet ground, that water will slowly work its way through your tent, and then you'll get everything on the inside wet, and you don't want to be doing that, especially if you're having to backpack for multiple days. So it's best just to avoid all that. Have a nice little ground pad that you can set up and you're good to go. And then also with this tent, it does come with the rain fly, and so this here is the rain fly. I just didn't set it up for right now because it really isn't raining. But my favorite feature about this rainfly is this little green tab. So this tab lines up with this tab in this corner of the tent, and it makes setting up the rainfly extremely easy. You just match the green with the green, and then you throw the rest of it over, and then it has these clips, so you just clip it all in, and your rainfly set up. You put a stake in the front of the rainfly, a stake in the back, and your rainfly is set up and secure. And so honestly, setting up this tent is extremely easy for the tent itself, as well as putting up the rainfly. And that's one of the best things I love about the tent, is just the ease at which it can all be set up. And also with the rainfly, it does create a little covered area in the front of the tent, so you can store your boots and your backpack if it's raining and you don't want it to get wet. So then also some things about this tent that I really enjoy is it's tapered. So the front of the tent, or the where your head goes, is a little bit wider than where your feet go in the tent. And so that just makes it feel more spacious on the inside. And then there's also pockets on either corner of the head. So you can store whatever you had, in your pockets while you're hiking. You can just put them into little tent pockets and not have to worry about them getting lost in the tent or getting lost in your sleeping bag. So that's a nice little perk about the tent. And then it's really a great tent. I do recommend it if you're looking for a solo tent, for a one-person tent. And I find myself using this tent a lot, even if I do go hiking with a group of people, because I just like to have my own little space to set up at night. All right, now let's move on to the sleep system. So we'll get started with the sleeping bag. And the sleeping bag that I use most often is the Teton Sports 40-degree Fahrenheit sleeping bag. And technically it's only rated for summertime camping, but I find as long as temperatures don't drop below freezing, I can get away using this bag in the spring and fall time as well. And this sleeping bag is really great for people who are over 6 feet tall. It's rectangular shaped, so it's not like a mummy bag, so there's plenty of room for you to toss and turn, and you're not gonna feel trapped in your sleeping bag. And so those are all things I really appreciate and enjoy about this bag. As well, it has a fleece lining on the inside, so it's really comfortable to get into and get all cozied up at night. And then it also has this hood on it, so you can throw this hood over your head and cinch it down tight, and you're not going to have to worry about slipping out of your sleeping bag whenever you're rolling over at night. And then some other features about this sleeping bag are it's really lightweight and compactable. So it really takes up no room at all in my backpack, whereas a sleeping bag that may be rated for like 30 degrees or even colder is definitely just going to take up more room in my backpack. So if you can, maybe try to get away using a 40-degree bag. And if I ever do get a little cold, I can always throw on a stocking cap and my long underwear, and I'll stay plenty warm whenever I get into my sleeping bag. And so I definitely recommend this, but you're going to need to try things out for yourself. This may not work for everyone, because if you're going to be camping in temperatures that are definitely going to be getting around freezing or colder, I would definitely recommend bringing a warmer sleeping bag.
I hope you're getting a better understanding of what it takes for your shelter and sleep system backpacking setup. If you're enjoying the video, go ahead and hit the thumbs up. And if you have any questions about the gear, you can leave them down below in the comments, and I'll be happy to discuss that with you. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. That way you won't miss out on any of the other videos in this series.
So next will be my sleeping pad. And I use a sleeping pad by Sleepingo. This is a brand that I found on Amazon, and it's very affordable. So if you're just getting started with backpacking, it's a great sleeping pad to try out, and I definitely recommend it. It's made out of very strong and durable material, so it's not going to rip or pop easily. And it's also very compactable and lightweight, so it takes up almost no room in your backpack, which is a great feature, because I've definitely used sleeping pads in the past that are really bulky and they definitely take up a lot of room. So having this one is a great sleeping pad to have, because it's not going to take up much room at all. And then once it is inflated, it gives you about 2 inches or so of cushion. And so that's more than enough if you want to sleep on your side or your back. You're not going to be touching the ground, and you're going to have good, comfortable sleep all night long. For myself, I toss and turn a lot, so I'll be on my side one for a little while and then flip over to the other side. And during all those times of moving and rolling around, I really never touch the ground. So this is a great sleeping pad. Definitely recommend it for whatever type of sleeper you are. It should work. All right, so a sleep system wouldn't be complete without a pillow. And the pillow that I've been using recently is the X Pillow by Kylmit. It's an inflatable pillow, so you really won't notice this pillow taking up any extra space at all in your backpack. Usually what I'll do is deflate it and then put it inside my sleeping bag, and then pack my sleeping bag away into my backpack. So literally you won't notice it taking up any extra space. I like inflatable pillows. They work fine for me, but it's really up to you. You're gonna have to try. There's other options for inflatable pillows, as well as they make memory foam pillows that are made for backpacking, so they're a little bit smaller and compactable, but nothing's going to be as compactable as an inflatable pillow. So if you're looking for something that's really not going to take up any extra space, then an inflatable pillow is probably the way to go. But you may have to make some sacrifices as far as comfort goes. All right, well, that sums up the shelter and sleep system, but I do need to just say real quick that there's plenty of other options. Like, you can use a hammock to go backpacking. Maybe you don't even want to bring a tent. You can use a tarp as shelter. So there's plenty of different varieties and directions that you can go. So start maybe with a tent and a sleeping bag and sleeping pad, and see where you move on from there. And as far as each piece of gear that I've recommended, you don't have to specifically use this gear. You can find what works best for you. Maybe you want to have a 2-person tent instead of a 1-person tent. Like, it's really up to you what pieces of gear you're using at the end of the day, and you'll just need to get it and get out into the backcountry and test it out, see what works best. But anyway, I hope this at least helped give you some knowledge for getting started. Now you have a better understanding of, what you need, at least: a tent, sleeping bag, sleeping pad, and a pillow. But as far as the specifics of what you use, again, that's really just up to you. So until next time, keep on trekking.